In proportion as my own discomfort has increased, my conviction of necessity to search into the wants of the friendless and afflicted has deepened. If I am cold, they too are cold. If I am weary, they are distressed. If I am alone, they are abandoned. Dorothea Dix, 1859.
Hey, Mrs. Sweeney and internship class of 2018. My name is Julian Fernandez, and it is currently the break of dusk at 2:18 in the morning, where I broke one of the main tips of not waiting till the last minute to read and complete my video. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce the book that I read, and it is called Heroines of Mercy Street, The Real-Life Nurses of the Civil War, published by Back Bay Books and written by University of Chicago professor Pamela D. Dolores, PhD. Now, before I dive into the details of the biography, I'd like to address the quote from the beginning of this video by Dorothea Dix, which are one of the main figures in the book. And it had a very powerful message, as the theme of sacrifice and determination is long running through the book. And through Dix's strong willpower and determination, she was able to build a whole division of nurses to aid the Civil War effort in the North for the Union from scratch, even though she had to overcome several obstacles, mainly being that she was a female in a male-dominated profession and society, which I feel translate to many contemporary issues women are facing today. Now, to give Dorothea a much better context, as she is the main figure talked about in the book, she was born on April 4th, 1802, into a very abusive and disjointed family. And at the age of 12, she sought refuge at her grandmother's house in Boston. And due to several complications from her grandmother's old age, she was exposed to several methods of health care, which eventually influenced her to become a health caretaker herself and even advocate for improvements on mental health facilities all over the US, and especially in the Massachusetts Bay Area before the Civil War. In the beginning of the Civil War, after the fall of Fort Sumter in South Carolina, Dix saw how underprepared the medical care unit of the United States Army was to undertake what wasn't known at the time would be the bloodiest war the U.S. has ever participated in. She saw the need for having an influx of nurses that were well-trained and In the beginning of the Civil War, after the fall of Fort Sumter in South Carolina, Dix saw how underprepared the medical care unit of the United States Army was to undertake what wasn't known at the time would be the bloodiest war the U.S. has ever participated in. She saw the need for having an influx of nurses that were well-trained and well-prepared to undertake the task of aiding wounded soldiers injured during battle. But on her way to lobby for legislation that would fund this new nursing unit, quote, Dix's offer to form a nursing corps was not at the top of the agenda for an administration literally under threat of siege, end quote. This is significant as it shows how unprepared and reluctant the U.S. government was to give a woman like Dorothea Dix the authority and power to grant her a quintessential medical unit for the U.S. war effort, solely because she was a female and was considered a secondary lower-class citizen regardless of her credentials and ability. This brings me to the overarching theme of the biography, which I feel was the role of women in society and the sexism that comes with it.